being a mutant is unacceptable, and people think of you as a freak, and people think of you as this kind of weird person, when in reality you have these amazing people with these cool powers.
Today's episode is presented by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network.
What type of themes does Andy go through this season that you think will resonate with fans of X-Men?
Bullying. He gets bullied, and that's kind of how his powers, come up, is because obviously the mutation occurs in a situation of high stress, and Andy gets bullied at school, and he goes through a lot of trouble with other kids, which I think is a very relatable topic.
I think you can expect an in-depth backstory to each of the characters, a reason why Blink is a bit standoffish, what triggered her powers, and how she develops throughout the series in terms of like how powerful she is able to become.
When you first meet my character, she's a normal teenager going through regular teenage problems, and then you find out that she's actually been hiding this secret, that she's been a mutant her entire life. But in the society that the show is set in, being a mutant is unacceptable, and people think of you as a freak, and people think of you as this kind of weird person, when in reality you have these amazing people with these cool powers.
So we see some of your mutant powers in the trailer.
Yes.
What is one of the downfalls that you face or your character faces this season because of all of her crazy powers?
Yeah, I'd say Polaris, because she controls magnetism, electromagnetic fields. I don't know if she really has a downside, because she actually is pretty, not super advanced in her powers, but has pretty good control over them. I'd say her biggest downfall is her temper, because the only time she can't control her powers is when it comes to an emotional place, when she gets upset, when she gets angry, when she gets protective of her friends.
What are the cons? Oh, yeah, well, that's interesting. Well, he does have superhuman strength, so I think there's going to be moments that he accidentally breaks things. Like someone asks him to open a jar of jelly, they can't open, then he just ends up smashing it. Or he gives somebody a hug and he ends up breaking their arm. So that's tough to deal with.
So Eclipse is a newly created character for the show. His real name is Marcos Diaz, and he has the power, at least currently, because they're all still evolving and learning on a molecular level. If they can do this on a molecular level, they can become so much more powerful. He can absorb and emit. He absorbs the energy from light and sun, and can emit that through any photons. He can manipulate photons, so he can do anything from shooting searing blinding light to focusing it into red hot metal lasers. And
That's a lot of power.
At the moment, yeah, I mean, it could only get more powerful. Polaris is pretty scary as well, and Thunderbird too. There's a few, yeah, it's scary.
Your character has a romance this season, right?
Who told you that?
I'm not sure. A little birdie?
I've heard. I mean, I really can't say much on that. I've heard a few theories on a couple options with that, so we'll see where that goes.
With all these powers, do you have time to have a romantic relationship?
Well, that's a big deal with Thunderbird. He comes from a military background, and he feels like he's currently at war. He's at war with the Sentinel Services, with a hostile government oppressing mutant kind. So when our show is introduced and our story starts out, he's definitely not, trying to have a match made in heaven occur. He's pretty focused.
You are in a relationship with Polaris, right?
Yes, yeah. You find them. They've joined this. They've created this station of the Underground Network that's based on the Underground Railroad to help other mutants either make safe in other countries or to stand up and fight for their rights as people. And in that process, he's brought into the station with Lorna, and he falls for her.
Eclipse and Polaris are really solid. They've been together for many real years. They're not like a newly dating young couple. They're really a team, and you see that in the way they both are at home and the way they are when they're helping with the Mutant Underground. So it's really exciting. And of course, when they something tears them apart, and it's a big battle to get back together.
You aren't a huge fan of the mutants at first.
Yes, my character is a prosecutor, and he works for the government, and his job is to kind of basically prosecute people who have used their mutant powers. So he's not just against mutants, it's only people who use their mutant powers in public. That's not what they're allowed to do. So when they use their mutant powers, he takes them out of society and he puts them into camps, which is obviously lots of metaphors in there for real life. He thinks he's doing the right thing. He thinks he's doing what the law states he should do. And his son sort of getting these powers changes up the way he thinks about these things.
Mutants in the in the show are very scarce, and they get prosecuted and looked down upon by society because they're viewed as a threat. And obviously, well, when my power emerges, it is a very big threat. So it's kind of alienating.
One of the hardest things with being a mutant is that he's trying to do the right thing in a world that's trying to strip them of anything good. He really struggles with that, and there's a really interesting dynamic that you'll see throughout the series between Thunderbird, Polaris, and Eclipse. Thunderbird has a certain stance and Polaris has another, and in some ways Eclipse is struggling with this middle of that. And you'll see that come out as the group gets put under duress and they start to fracture. He's sort of either dictated by logic and reason or by passion, and that's something really fun to tear at.
Will the kind of storyline behind the Strucker name ever be explored, maybe?
Yeah, it will.
Yeah. Is that something we'll see later in this season, or?
Yeah, there's gonna be some reveal about the Struckers.
We are a family full of secrets, and there's a lot to reveal. And if you want to find out, you got to watch the show Monday, October 2nd.
Click left to watch all the behind-the-scenes secrets of The Gifted. This episode was presented by T-Mobile. With unlimited data, you can feel your fandom like never before on America's best unlimited network.